Hey everyone, and welcome to our video on how to plan for class. Before we get started, I want to let you know where I began my lesson planning career so that you can see the difference between when I started until now. And then you'll be able to understand why the results I used to get were far worse than the results I get now. The approach that you take will dictate the results that you get. As with most things in life, there's a duality to planning lessons. You could either be a process-driven teacher who starts with the top and works down, or you can be an activity-driven teacher who starts from the bottom and works their way up. So take a minute and think, are you a top-down teacher or a bottom-up teacher? Do you start with the big picture or zoom in on the details from the very beginning? Is what you do driven by your teaching philosophy, or do you build your classes around what you're going to do and the activities that you have found to work best? In my career, I've done a bit of both, and I can tell you that one is clearly better than the other. And I think I can explain this best by helping you think about your classes like a road trip. Just as most people don't suddenly decide to get in their car and start driving, most teachers don't just walk into the classroom and start teaching. Just as most people don't grab the keys and just start driving down the highway without a destination in mind, teachers shouldn't go into a classroom without a philosophy in their head that guides their decisions at every step. For me, in my classroom, as a language teacher, my teaching philosophy is get students speaking. Next, you've got to select a teaching approach that will facilitate your teaching philosophy. You've got to make sure that your vehicle will get you to your destination. If you wanted to take a family of 6 to Disneyland, you wouldn't rent a sports car. You'd probably choose a minivan. So make sure that your teaching approach and your philosophy are in line and in sync. In my speaking class, I use a conversation. Once you've selected your destination and your vehicle, you got to figure out how to get there. So you plug in your destination into the GPS, and you follow those step-by-step instructions to get where you want to go. Your objectives are these turn-by-turn navigations that can guide your units and your lessons to make sure that you're achieving the goals you need to arrive at that conversation-based learning destination. Once you've figured out your destination, selected a vehicle, and plotted your course, now what do? You get in the car and drive. You buckle your seatbelt, you turn on the ignition, you put the car into drive, and put the pedal to the metal. Your activities are the mechanics of your classroom. They're what help you achieve that final goal, that big picture. They get you to your destination. And as with any road trip, we might not always end up at our final destination. We might be a little bit later than we expected, might take a little bit longer, might be a little bit more expensive. Heck, we might not ever make it there. We may even crash along the way. But having a destination in mind, having a vehicle to take you there, having GPS directions, will certainly make the trip a whole lot easier. The biggest, most important, and hardest to answer question is always why. Why are you teaching this? Why are you doing this activity? Why are you trying to achieve this objective? Why are you using this approach? Your teaching philosophy will be one of the hardest things in your whole career that you're going to have to figure out. But until you do, you don't know where you're going. But once you do figure that out, you're on the right track. You can plot a course and figure out the steps you need to take to get to achieve this objective. Finally, once you've got your course planned out, You just have to put one foot in front of the other, step by step, activity by activity, lesson by lesson, class by class, day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year. You'll get closer and closer to that end goal. The why, the how, and the what are all checkpoints on your teaching journey. They're reminders or marking signs that show you where you're going, where you're headed, and where you are. And if you get lost, they show you where to go back to and how to start all over again. One of the best pieces of teaching advice that I can give you is don't fall into the trap of a good activity. Sometimes you'll hear about something and really want to try it, but it just doesn't fit into your overall course goals or the approach that you're taking to a class or even to your teaching philosophy. The activity might look good, sound good, maybe even smell good. But unless it fits into your classroom plan, let it go. Even though the temptation may be strong. Remember, you don't put sports tires on an SUV. So don't force something into your classroom that won't work. And I'm not saying this has to be the case every time. Of course, every once in a while we need a break. Every once in a while we've got to take a pit stop or go see a roadside attraction. But make sure that the detours enhance and highlight the trip, that they don't take it over and become the trip. And with all this having been said, the next time you buckle up, make sure you think about where you're going first.